$13 million. For one man. To play a game. It's the richest contract in the history of Australian Rugby League. And here's the strange part. It might be the smallest secret in this entire story. Because in this sport, the number they announce to the public is never the real number. It's the version they want you to see. The clean one. The one that fits neatly inside the rules. Underneath it sits a hidden machine. A strict cap that dictates exactly how much a club is allowed to spend. A loophole quiet enough and wide enough to pour a second fortune straight through, completely untouched by that cap. And beneath all of it, a long, buried history of clubs so desperate to win that they kept 2 sets of books, invented paper trails, and lied to an entire nation to get away with it. This is the money the game is truly built on. What the stars actually earn. Where that money really comes from. And exactly how far some clubs will go to hide it. Because by the end of this, you'll understand something almost no highlight reel will ever show you. How one of the greatest teams ever assembled had everything it won ripped away. Not beaten on the field. Not out-muscled or outscored. Undone by a boat, a stack of fake invoices, and a single secret ledger no one was ever supposed to see. So follow the money. In this game, it always leads somewhere dark. The visible fortune. Let's start with what they let you see. Not long ago, $1 million contract in rugby league was almost mythical. It was reserved for the immortals, the 1 or 2 generational talents in an entire era. For everyone else, playing this brutal game professionally meant a comfortable wage, not a fortune. That world is gone. Today, almost every club in the competition carries at least one player earning 7 figures a season. The elite fullbacks and playmakers, the men who decide games, now command well over $1 million a year, with reported deals climbing past $1.3 million for the very biggest names. And the ceiling keeps shattering. One marquee signing was reportedly worth around $13 million across the life of the contract. A figure that, just a decade ago, would have been laughed out of the room. A single player, earning more than some entire teams once cost to field. But before you assume everyone in the league is swimming in cash, they are not. The average player earns somewhere around $380,000 a season. Good money, yes. But nothing like the superstars. And the lowest paid man in a top 30 squad takes home closer to $130,000. For a job that can, quite literally, end his career with a single tackle. So already you can see the shape of it. A handful of kings at the top. A large middle. And a floor of players risking everything for a fraction of the headline numbers. But here's the question that runs underneath all of it. If the game is generating this much money, why isn't every club just buying every star? Why doesn't the richest team simply win forever? The answer is a single rule. And it has quietly shaped everything you've ever watched. The cage. The salary cap. Every club in this league plays inside a cage. It's called the salary cap. It's a hard ceiling on how much a club is allowed to spend on its players. Today that ceiling sits at more than $11 million, split across a club's 30 best. And here's how fast the money has grown. 20 years ago, that same cap was barely a third of the size. The game has more than tripled its spending power in a single generation. The cap exists for one reason: survival. Imagine a league with no limit. The wealthiest 1 or 2 clubs would simply buy every great player in the country. They'd win everything. The smaller clubs, the ones with history, with loyal fans, with junior systems feeding the game, would be crushed, then bankrupted, then gone. And a competition where the same team wins every single year is a competition nobody bothers to watch. The cap is what stops that. And it works. Over one recent 16-year stretch, 12 different clubs won the title. 12. That kind of parity barely exists anywhere else in world sport. But the cap does something else, too. Something less noble. It turns every club into a puzzle box. Because if you spend big to keep one superstar, you have less for everyone else. Sign 2 players to 7-figure deals, and suddenly those 2 men can swallow nearly a quarter of your entire cap, leaving the other 28 to fight over what's left. Every contract becomes a gamble. Who's worth the money? Who do you let walk out the door to a rival? And how do you keep the team you've built, without breaking the one rule that holds the whole league together? For most clubs, that pressure is just part of the job. For others, it became a temptation they couldn't resist. Because there's a second river of money in this sport. One that flows completely outside the cap. Perfectly legal, until, suddenly, it isn't. The invisible money. Here's the part most fans never fully understand. The salary cap only controls one thing: the money a club pays its own players. That's it. It does not, and cannot, control the money those players earn from everybody else. They're called third-party deals. Private sponsorships a player signs on his own, with a car dealership, a clothing label, a supplement company, a local business that just wants his face on a poster. Money that has nothing to do with the club, and therefore doesn't count against the salary cap at all. In the eyes of the rules, it may as well not exist. And here's the crucial part: that money is unlimited. There's no ceiling on it. A superstar can earn as much as the open market is willing to pay him, and for the marketable ones, the market pays a fortune. For the biggest names in the game, these outside deals can be worth as much as their entire playing contract. Sometimes more. It's how a single marketable player can quietly double his income, land in a higher tax bracket than half his teammates combined, and still leave his club sitting perfectly, innocently, within the rules. All of it completely legitimate. But look closely, really closely, and you start to see the danger. Because this is where the grey zone begins. A blurry, shadowy line between two things that can look almost identical from the outside. On one side, an honest sponsorship a player genuinely earned on the strength of his own name. On the other, a club quietly steering money to a star through a friendly third party, a mate's business, a sponsor who owes someone a favor, for one reason only: to keep a player they otherwise couldn't afford. To pay him what the cap says they can't. From the outside, those two deals can be printed on the very same letterhead. On one side of that line, it's smart business. Modern. Legal. Encouraged. Even. Step over it, just one step, and it stops being clever accounting. It becomes cheating. And to understand just how badly, how spectacularly wrong this can go, you have to look at the clubs that got caught. The stolen money. The history of this game is stained with clubs that simply could not stay under the cap, so they lied about it. The most infamous of them all ran a secret system for 5 straight years. 2 sets of books. One handed to the league's auditors, clean and compliant. And a second, hidden ledger, the real one, full of payments no one was ever meant to find. How did the money move? Through the shadows. Secret side letters promising players far more than their official contracts. Invoices from suppliers, deliberately inflated, so the extra cash could be quietly funneled straight to the players. In one case, a star's contract was lodged with the league at $400,000, while his real deal was worth nearly $1 million. The difference was paid in gifts and disguised cash, a $20,000 gift voucher, a $30,000 boat. When it all finally collapsed, the punishment was historic. The club was stripped of 2 premierships it had already won, fined more than $1.5 million, and an independent audit later estimated the true scale of the rort at over $3 million. They weren't the first. Years earlier, another club sat proudly on top of the table, 17 straight wins, looking unstoppable. Then investigators discovered it had blown past the cap by more than $1 million. The penalty was merciless, so many points stripped that a team dominating the entire competition finished the season in dead last. And don't think this is ancient history. Even in recent seasons, clubs have been caught overspending and quietly fined, the auditors still circling, still counting, still combing through every contract for the money that isn't supposed to be there. After the biggest scandal, the league even forced players and their agents to sign legal declarations swearing their contracts were clean. Because in this sport, the money never sleeps. And neither do the people hunting for it. But for all the millions changing hands, the record contracts, the hidden ledgers, the fortunes flowing through the grey zone, there's one last truth about the money in this game. And it's the one nobody wants to talk about. The mirage. For most of the men who actually play this sport, the fortune is a mirage. The average professional career in this game lasts less than a decade. And for many, it's far shorter than that. A few seasons of big money, and then the body gives out. The knees, the shoulders, the head. The phone stops ringing. The contract offers dry up. The sponsors. They move on to the next young face the moment yours starts to fade. And so you get the cruelest pattern in all of sport. Players who once earned millions, who filled stadiums and sold jerseys, finding themselves just a few years after retirement with their savings gone, their health broken, and no idea what comes next. Meanwhile, the game itself has never been richer. A broadcast deal worth $1 billion. Hundreds of millions funnel to the clubs every single year. An entire industry built on the bodies of the men on the field. But those men, the ones who bleed for it, who shorten their own lives for it, often walk away with the smallest and shortest slice of all. In my opinion, as Aussienitic. So follow the money, and you find the real story of rugby league. A cap built to protect the game. A loophole big enough to drive a second fortune through. Clubs willing to cheat, lie, and hide to win a trophy. And players chasing a payday that, for most of them, vanishes almost as fast as it arrives. The league will tell you the cap keeps the sport fair and alive. Its critics will tell you the real money always finds its way into the shadows, and that the only difference between a genius and a cheat is whether the auditors ever come knocking. So I'll leave it with you. Does the salary cap protect the game you love? Or does it just push the money somewhere you're not allowed to look? Tell me in the comments. Because this is only the first story on the money trail, and I promise you, it gets a lot darker from here. Subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the shadows.